What if the team of industry experts you shook hands with in the boardroom will never step foot into your building again? What if that best practice system they promised that would save you 50% of your timeline is actually an empty PowerPoint deck? And what if I told you that the entire ERP sales cycle is designed to hide one uncomfortable truth? The people selling you the project are not the people delivering it. We call this the sales to delivery gap. But let's call it what it really is. They're selling you the A team and staffing you with the C team. Hi, I'm Noel Benjamin Dcosta. I've spent 24 years in the ERP and AI space. I've been a partner at the big firms as well as I've been a client. And I've written these proposals and I sat in those boardrooms and I know exactly where the problems happen in that contract that you're about to sign. In this video, I'm going to expose the three big lies vendors will tell you to get your signature. We're going to break down the staffing pyramid scheme, how they bury one expensive expert under 10 cheap juniors to fake a competitive price. We're also going to talk about the scope trap. What is actually covered versus what is a change request waiting to happen. And we are going to look at the accelerator myth, the lie that they have a pre built system ready for you to go. And if you want to survive your implementation without a bleeding budget, you need to watch this video for the next 20 minutes. Well, let's look at the contract. So let's talk about the money, because this is where the first lie lives. You look at the proposal and you say a blended hour rate that looks amazing, and you think, wow, we're getting SAP experts at $90 an hour. Well, you're not. You're falling for the resource pyramid. Now, let's break down the math. And this is something that they don't show you. That $90 rate is made up of one senior solution architect on site charging around $300 an hour. And then they have 10 junior developers offshore charging $30 an hour. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm for offshoring and I'm not against it. It's necessary for scale and cost. But here's the lie. They tell you that the quality is the same, and most of the time it isn't. Well, the problem is the context gap. So your onshore lead understands your business. They know why you need that discount logic for your retail business. But the offshore resource, they're often working off a written specification sheet. They've never seen a warehouse. They've never seen any warehouse in some cases. They don't even know your culture. And I would be really surprised even if they understood what your business is all about. So the onshore guy writes a specification and the offshore guy codes exactly what is written, not what is needed, what is written. And when it comes back, it doesn't work. So you send it back and they fix it and it comes back and it breaks something else. Well, this is the churn cycle. And you're not paying for the fix, but you're paying with your time. A 2-day development task becomes a 2-week ordeal because of the time zone lag and the context gap. And then the ink dries and the great resource swap begins. So during the sales pitch, they flash the team slide. They say, meet Sanjay, he has done 15 implementations in your industry. And meet Sarah, she's written a book on supply chain. And you signed the contract thinking you brought Sarah and Sanjay. But on day one of the project, Sanjay is wrapping up another engagement, and Sarah had a family emergency. And who walks through your door? Two guys you have never seen before, who have just finished their SAP certification last month. Now, standard SAP advice says, put a named resource clause in the contract. But let's be practical, that doesn't work. This is a free market. If Sanjay wants to quit and join a competitor, the vendor can't stop him. And if he gets hit by a bus, God forbid, the contract can't save him. So you can't force a human to stay, but you can make it expensive for the vendor to lose them. So here is how you actually protect yourself in the statement of work or the SOW. So the first thing is the knowledge transfer tax. So if a key resource leaves for any reason, whether they quit or they get reassigned, the vendor must provide a replacement for a 4-week overlap period at zero cost to you. Do not pay for the new guy to learn what the old guy knew. That is the vendor's tuition to pay and not yours. The second is the resume review right. So the vendor does not get to drop a body in the seat. You have the right to interview and veto the replacement. If they aren't up to the standard of the original, the seat stays empty and the billing stops until they find someone who is. The third one is define seniority by experience and not title. So vendors love to inflate titles. A senior consultant may be a 24-year-old with 2 years of experience. In your contract, define what senior is. Maybe it could be 7 major implementation cycles, or a lead maybe 10 plus years. The definition objective is that they cannot put a general for a private. Now, the resource lie is about the margin. They want to swap expensive people for cheap people to increase their profit. Now, your job is to make that swap so painful for them that they keep their best people on the project just to avoid the headache. But if you get the right people, what exactly are they building? So, lie two is what I call the change request farm. The vendor tells you, don't worry, this is a fixed price contract. We will implement standard SAP best practices for finance, sales, and supply chain and HR. Now, fixed price sounds safe, right? Standard also sounds good, but you need to understand what the word standard means in a legal contract. To you, standard means, a system that allows me to ship my product and invoice my customer exactly like how I do it today, but better. To the vendor, standard means the software as it exists when we activate the cloud tenant with zero modification. Now, the gap between these two definitions is where you lose your budget. In the SAP world, we have an acronym, RICEFW. What does it stand for? It's reports, interfaces, conversions, enhancement, forms, and workflows. Now, this is where the battle is fought. Let's look at forms. You assume that printing an invoice is standard, and it is. SAP has a standard invoice, but it's ugly. It doesn't have your logo, it doesn't have your specific bill to layout, it doesn't have the QR code for your local tax authority. So during the workshop, you say, can you move this box to the left or add our QR code? And the consultant smiles and says, sure, but that's a change request. 3 days of development, $4,000. Now multiply that by every packing slip, purchase order, check, and shipping label in your warehouse. Or let's look at reports, right? The proposal says include 20 standard reports. And you think, great, that sounds plenty. But let's read the fine print. Standard report means a Fiori tile that already exists. So if you want a report that combines the sales data with the shipping data, that's not standard. That is a custom analytical query. Is it in the scope? No, it's a change request. This is what I call as the CR farm, the change request farm. So they bid low on the fixed price to win the deal, knowing that they will make their real profit margin on the change request that you're forced to sign because you can't run your business without them. So, how do you stop this? You have to attack the most dangerous page in the proposal. It's usually buried at the back in small font. It's called the assumptions and the exclusions. So, they will pretty much write things like all external systems will provide data in standard SAP API format. Or assumption is maximum 3 fields added to standard forms. Now, here is my practical advice. Do not sign a contract based on standard. Sign a contract based on an inventory. So, number one, the inventory list. Before you sign, make a list of every critical output. I need these 5 specific management reports. I need these specific labels. I need specific interfaces to Salesforce. Attach that list in the contract as Appendix A and say these are in scope, fixed price. Number two, the complexity bucket. You won't know everything up front, so negotiate a bucket of complexity. Ask for 3 complex report, 10 medium reports, and 20 simple reports to be included in the price, even if you haven't defined them yet. Now, make them give you credits. If you don't use a complex report, you can swap it with 2 medium ones. And if you don't define the complexity bucket, they will assume the simplest possible version. And when reality hits, you pay the difference. This brings us to the third and the final lie, the one that promises speed. So the vendor says, we have a proprietary pharma in a box accelerator. It comes pre configured with 80% of what you need, and it will cut your implementation time by 40%. Sounds amazing. You imagine a system that's already built waiting for you to log in. Now, the reality is that most industry accelerators are marketingware and not software. What they usually have is a vanilla SAP environment, the exact same empty tenant you would get directly from SAP, plus a folder full of PowerPoint slides and process diagrams. They call the PowerPoints accelerators because they help you talk about the design faster, but they don't help you to build it faster. You still have to configure the system from scratch. Or, in the worst case, the accelerator is a golden tenant. It's a demo environment they built 5 years ago. It looks great in the sales presentations, but it's built on an old version and it's full of hard coded data. Now, they can demo it, but they can't give it to you. They can't lift and shift that demo into your production environment. So, on day one of your project, you aren't starting at the 50-yard line. You are starting at the 0-yard line, holding a map says 50-yard line. This creates the fit gap illusion. So, they schedule the fit to standard workshops and they show you the accelerator, and you say, okay, looks good. But because the accelerator is just a shell, you don't see the details. You don't see that the accelerator doesn't handle your specific batch management logic. You don't see that it cannot handle your intercompany pricing. You only find out about it in testing. And 6 months later, when the budget is already gone, so how do you verify if an accelerator is real? You use the data injection test. So during the life cycle, before you sign, tell them this: I don't want to see your demo data. Here is a spreadsheet with 10 of my real customer orders and 5 of my real products. Load them into your accelerator and demo the order to cash process next Tuesday. Now, if the accelerator is real code, loading your data should take them a few hours. But if the accelerator is fake, I mean, if it's just smoke and mirrors, they will panic. They will say, oh, the environment has to be refreshed. Or we can't put client data in a demo box due to security. That is your red flag. If you can't run your transaction in their accelerator, then the accelerator is worth $0. Do not pay any premium for it. So let's recap. You know how to spot the resource shell game. You know how to fence in the scope trap. And you know how to test the accelerator myth. But right now, you're probably thinking, Noel, this is great advice, but I'm safe because I'm not signing a time and material contract. I'm forcing the vendor to sign a fixed price contract. If they screw up, they pay for it. Now, I have to tell you the hardest truth of all: fixed price does not mean fixed costs. In my 24 years, I've seen more companies go bankrupt on the fixed price contracts than any other model. Why? Because when a vendor signs a fixed price deal, their goal shifts. They are no longer trying to build you a great system. They're trying to build the cheapest possible system that barely passes the acceptance criteria so they can protect their margin. So a fixed price contract turns your partner into an adversary. Every conversation becomes a negotiation, and every improvement becomes a change request. And while you're fighting over the contract, your project is burning. In my next video, I'm going to dismantle the fixed price illusion. I'm going to show you why the safest contract is actually the most dangerous one, and why, if you actually want to control your budget, you might need to do the exact opposite of what your procurement team is telling you. You do not want to miss this one. It's going to make some vendors very angry, but it might save your job. So, I'm Noel Benjamin Dcosta. Stop buying the lie. Start managing the reality. Click here to watch the truth about the fixed price projects. Ciao.